and welcome to Tech Talk, where you'll hear the latest in technology and investment trends directly from the trendsetters. I'm your host, Fritz Spencer, member of EisnerAmper's Technology and Life Sciences practice, and with me today is very special guest, Raquel de Antonio, CEO and founder of Sargassum Eco Lumber. She joins me today to discuss how her startup is turning a beach nuisance into your next home. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to EisnerAmper wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also find us on YouTube at EisnerAmper. Today's insightful conversation could influence next steps for your startup. Raquel, thank you so much for joining me today.
No, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for our conversation.
Likewise. So, in a few sentences, can you explain your startup's mission to our audience?
Of course. At Sargassum Eco Lumber, our mission is to turn an environmental crisis into a sustainable solution. We transform invasive sargassum, seaweed, and recycled plastics into durable, eco-friendly materials, just a sustainable alternative to lumber. And by doing this, we are reducing deforestation, plastic pollution, and carbon emissions in the process. Our goal is to reshape the construction industry with materials that are better for the planet and that are built to last.
At EisnerAmper, we are creative problem solvers that take a 360-degree approach focusing on you. We're an award-winning firm with decades of experience providing accounting and advisory services. EisnerAmper, let's get you ready.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It sounds like you guys are tackling several different issues. Could you tell me what specific challenges you're aiming to solve?
Yes, just as you said, we are solving a complex global environmental crisis. Actually, several at once. One of the biggest is the sargassum seaweed problem. There are now over 21 million tons of sargassum seaweed floating across the Atlantic in what is called the Great Atlantic Sargassum Belt. And when it reaches the shoreline, it causes a big problem. It piles up on the beach, it disrupts tourism, it hurts local economies, and releases toxic gases like hydrogen sulfide as it decomposes. And this is a serious health risk to people living near the coast because it not only smells bad, but it causes respiratory and even skin problems. And what is more alarming is that this isn't just a one-time event. For over a decade, we've seen this issue getting worse and worse over the years. Right now, it's not just a Caribbean or a Latin American issue anymore. We can see sargassum seaweed in Florida, in Africa, Portugal, and even in Spain. This is happening because of warmer ocean temperatures due to climate change, and also excess nutrients from agriculture and fertilizers being washed into the ocean. So this will be getting worse and worse over the years. But sargassum is not only the problem. We are also addressing two other major problems like the plastic crisis and also deforestation. We produce over 430 million tons of plastic every year, and less than 10% gets recycled. So the rest ends up in landfills or the ocean. And at the same time, the construction industry, especially the demand for wood-based materials, is one of the major drivers of deforestation. So the global plywood market alone is $55 billion. So that is a lot of trees being cut down. So we saw these three major environmental challenges as opportunities. We are turning all these waste into sustainable alternative to traditional wood.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing about those problems, especially around climate change, which you and I are here in Florida, and we know how important those are and close to home. Next, I'd like to focus in on what you've started in on, which is your technology, if you will, your product. Can you tell us what attributes and basically how you've been developing your product to stand out in the market?
Sure. Our solution stands out because we're not just making a sustainable product. We are creating a sustainable circular system, and we're solving multiple environmental challenges at once. We use two of the world's most fastest growing waste streams, which is Sargassum seaweed and recycled plastics. But we also have the advantage that Sargassum captures carbon dioxide. And so when Sargassum washes up on the shore and decomposes, all that carbon gets released back into the atmosphere, CO2 and methane. But by creating Sargassum Eco Lumber, we are disrupting this cycle and we are creating a carbon vault into the lumber. This means that every panel we produce is also helping mitigate climate change.
Beautiful. I love to hear that you guys are reducing that carbon effect of the sargassum as well, which sounds like it's a ever-growing problem, especially in the oceans. So tell me, how does your product compare to these lumber products that you're basically going to be competing with?
Well, our material is made with 40% Sargassum seaweed and 60% recycled plastics. Specifically, it's made with medium and high-density polyethylene. And the result is a more durable and resistant lumber. It's a high-performance material that is isothermal, is resistant to water, rot, rust, and pests, and even fire because it self-extinguishes, which is a big deal for construction materials. And we also have, well, I just mentioned, the carbon sequestration properties of sargassum that none of the other composite materials has.
Great. Thanks for sharing. So tell me, I like to focus a lot on climate tech. How do you track your impact? What are you doing? Like, what are your metrics that matter to you guys?
Regarding environmental sustainability, well, as I already mentioned, we are turning major waste streams into lumber. We have the carbon sequestration properties that we could also get into the carbon credit market with our material. Well, we are not manufacturing yet. We're currently raising capital to build our first pilot production facility, but we will need to get into all the life cycle assessments and all certifications, but we are in a very good space at the moment.
I'm glad you brought up what you're currently working on. What is that next milestone for you guys? You're raising capital, you've accomplished, maybe MVP. Can you tell me a little bit more about the business goals behind Sargassum Eco Lumber?
Sure. Well, as part of our project, we've developed a material. It's a new composite material, but we've also developed proprietary technology that allows us to process this material in a sustainable way without any chemicals or any emissions. Because our material is so strong, durable, and very dense, we had to create proprietary machinery. We also have created a new process that is very innovative, and we are combining high pressure with a 3,000-ton press together with injection molded that is built specifically for our material. And with this machinery that is new technology, we can process large volumes at very high speed and faster than traditional wood or plastic panel manufacturing with a very consistent and good quality. On the other hand, sargassum when it's collected from the beach, is 85% or to 90% water. And this makes it very heavy and very hard to transport and to process. And to solve this issue, we've developed a proprietary solar-powered dryer, sargassum dryer, which uses renewable energy. It's transportable inside a container, and that will avoid us transportation costs and will make it easier to process. So our next major milestone is setting up our production facility. And this will take us from prototype to production. We already have validated our concept, our prototype, and we have also built a strong traction with letters of intent from customers in different industries, from architecture firms, construction companies, and even logistics with one of the major pallet manufacturers globally. So now it's all about scaling our operations to meet that demand and start producing at commercial volume. We are considering 2 major locations, either Florida or Mexico, and each of these, it has its pros and its cons. Setting up in Florida will allow us to offer a U.S. manufactured product, which is a huge advantage in terms of proximity to customers, access to grants, and also being a made in the U.S. product. But on the other hand, the cost of labor and certain regulations could drive up our production costs. And on the other hand, also Mexico presents an opportunity for more affordable labor and access to sargassum also. In the future, I envision having a facility not only in Mexico, another one in Florida, but also in Africa and places where we are seeing major sargassum inundation problems.
Right, going directly to the source of the problem, which is essentially what I would call, as an accountant, your inventory. You need to be able to acquire it, to process it, to build your finished good. And so that's so interesting to hear about how you've built these relationships on the customer side, on the vendor side. What other relationships have you built? Because, here at EisnerAmper, we're advisors and accountants. Has there been any advisors that have played a role in the growth of your startup?
Yes, of course. That's an important part of our journey. I've learned that building a community and having advisors, being an entrepreneur is very, very important. I've been an entrepreneur in the past with different other ventures. And I think not all of them have been successful. I have to admit, I've also had some failures, and those have helped me to realize the importance of meeting the right people, talking to everybody, and knowing that everybody, especially if you're building something that has an impact, people is willing to help you, right? So having an advisor, we were part of a Seaweed collective. It's a blue tech incubator. And that was great because it gave us the confidence, tools, and also the network to step into this space as a climate tech founder. It helped us to communicate our impact more clearly and believe even more deeply in what we're doing. So I think having advisors, talking to people, it's a very important part of being an entrepreneur. In our case, we at the present moment, we're looking for partnerships, for support in permitting, strategic partners, also who share our commitment to the environment and that can help us scale smarter, like companies in construction, in logistics, or the government that can help us set up an initial operation location, whether it's in Florida or in Mexico. So also we need support in permitting, sourcing, and establishing our local supply chains. As we are using waste streams. So it's very important we get the support from the community.
I'm so glad to hear that. And to leave us off, I'd love if you could give us some closing remarks or maybe even advice, seeing as you're an experienced entrepreneur, both with success and with failure. What would you say to someone who's either in your shoes or who wants to be wearing them?
I would say to any founder, to build your network, ask for help. And as I said, you'd be surprised how many people would be willing to give you a hand. I would say that this journey isn't easy and that it takes time. And that sometimes progress feels slow, but it's because things take time. Just don't get discouraged. Sometimes maybe you're just one connection or one pitch or one decision from everything changing. Just keep going because you never know when or how close you really are from making your dream a reality.
I love that. That's a beautiful, eloquent way to leave it off for us. Well, Raquel, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation with me today.
No, thank you so much, Fritz. It was great having this conversation. I appreciate it.
Pleasure was all mine. And for those who'd like to follow Sargassum Eco Lumber, what's the best way to connect with you?
Well, you can reach out to us on our website, sargassumecolumber.com. We are on LinkedIn, or you can just email me at raquel@sargassumecolumber.com.
Thanks again, Raquel. And thanks to our listeners for tuning into Tech Talk, the entrepreneurs and innovators who turn to EisnerAmper for audit, tax, advisory, and outsourcing solutions to help propel their business forward. Again, subscribe to EisnerAmper's podcast to listen to more Tech Talk episodes, or visit EisnerAmper.com for more tech news that you can use.